Hello friends, today we'll learn about basic yet very powerful count formulas. Count formulas are used to calculate occurrences of a value in a range. There are 5 variations of count formula. Let's see how these are different and when to use these. Let's start with simple count formula. Now this formula helps us count the numbers in a range, which means if I take count of this particular range, which is C2 to C117, I'll get how many numbers are there in the cell, and since every value is a number, it is giving me the count of everything, which is 116. What if I use this formula on the values where I have text and it gives 0? So that means very clearly it doesn't count number of text, and if I replace these values by, let's say, numbers, it is going to count and give me 3. So very clearly it counts the numbers and not the text. Now let me count the numbers here. What if I have to count the text within a range? For that I use CountA. Let's use CountA and I select the range. It gives me the complete range filled with all the text values. Now since I have everything filled here, let me shift or let me write CountA and let me count the model number. And it tells me that there are 110 rows which are filled with some text and rest are blank. Now if I have to count only blank values, how do I do that? I use CountBlank. CountBlank, and I select this complete range and it tells me there are 6 blanks, and if I delete some value from here, the count increases since the 7th row has also become blank now, and it helps me understand how many count or how many blanks are there in my data or in my variable. CountIf will help me get the number of rows with a certain condition. So if I want to count the rows where BMW is mentioned, I'll select the complete range, which is basically the entire range parameter, and the criteria. Since my criteria is a text, I give it in double quotes and I give BMW and I press enter. So there are 3 rows which are filled with BMW value. CountIf would also work on the numeric ranges, and let's see an example. If I want to see the cars which are priced, let's say about 20,000 or 30,000, then I say cars, I select the complete criteria and I say the range is greater than 20,000 and I need to give an %, 20,000, and it tells me that there are 74 cars out of this list which are above 20,000. Now this also works. You can also use greater than or equal to. You can also use less than, and it says that there are 42 cars which are less than 20,000. Wild characters can also be used in count formula. Let's take an example. I say CountIf and I want to check all the manufacturers, but those manufacturers starting with C, and I give C. It shows me there are 14 manufacturers which are starting with C. There is a limitation with CountIf that it allows only one criteria at a time. Now if you have multiple criteria and if you want to get result out of multiple criteria, how would you do that? And that's where CountIfS comes in picture. Let's take one example. I want to take count of all manufacturers, and the manufacturer name is, let's say, BMW, which is going to be very less. Let me take Ford. Now if I just apply single, it gives me there are 14 rows which are filled with Ford, but, and we can see it here, the 14 rows which are filled with Ford. I want to see within Ford how many cars are, let's say, more than 15,000. And to do that, I apply second criteria. The criteria range is price in USD, and the criteria is greater than 15,000. And it tells me that there are 8 cars which Ford is selling which are more than $15,000. We can also introduce another criteria, and let me introduce the criteria with the sales in USD, which is the overall sales which this car has made or these cars have made. Now I want to see the cars which are greater than 15,000, which are a little costly but have not given me enough sales. And to do that, let me look at the cars which have given me less than $1 million sales. And it tells me there are 2 cars which are from Ford which are more than $15,000 in price and which are giving me less than $1 million sale in terms or less than $1 million revenue.